Hi there video shooters, welcome back to the next episode of Gear Up. In this tutorial, I will show you how to shoot slow motion videos using the Sony RX10 III's high frame rate mode. I will also compare side by side the differences between shooting slow motion videos with an actual high frame rate camera versus shooting in normal speed and then using a video editing app to slow down the video. But first, I prepared a neat little video for you. Let's watch it together. Shooting slow motion videos opens up a whole new world of wonders. A good slow motion video requires a camera that can record hundreds of frames a second. It doesn't mean you can just wing it with a regular camera. To shoot in HFR or high frame rate means many images are recorded in 1 second compared to the usual 25 frames that make up 1 second of a video. In this go-kart racing that I shot, the HFR videos are buttery smooth. The camera is recording the images at 20 times the normal speed. That means 500 frames a second. A high frame rate camera like the Sony RX10 III shoots at up to 1000 frames per second. That's 40 times the regular speed. When played back in real time, the action is slowed down tremendously and you can see every detail. Check this out. Often I get comments where people say they can shoot at normal speed of 25 frames per second and tweak or slow down the movement with an app or an effect. Well, you really can't because this is how it's going to look like. A slow motion effect has been added to the regular speed video on the left to match the high frame rate video on the right. Great! We're now back at the studio and this is how the RX10 III looks like with its powerful Zeiss zoom lens. Let me show you how to begin shooting high frame rate video with this camera. So this is how the RX10 III looks from behind, and we're going to turn on the camera by powering it up. Next, let's start with the basics. I'm going to insert a memory card, so I will open up the memory card compartment and insert a memory card. You do it with the label facing you. I'll slot this in and close it back up. We want to format the memory card, so we're going to go to the menu. Click on the menu over here, and over here we have the menu items. So we have the camera settings on this icon over here, and followed by the customization settings, and then we have the connectivity settings, the application list, and then we have playback, and finally we have the setup. Alright, to format the memory card, let's scroll all the way down to the setup icon over here. So I'll go down there and we're going down until we find format on the 5th column. So I'll go down and format my memory card. There you go. Next, when that is done, I'd like to go back up to the next column where we find your date and time setup. You need to make sure that the camera, when it records your file, that it's actually recording the correct time and date. So do go and set this up. It's pretty easy. So make sure you set this up correctly so that you won't be confused when you want to look for a file, because there's going to be so many files, and at least you know that this file was shot on this date or at that time. I will go on to my mode dial over here, and then I will turn it to HFR. Next, I will go into the menu. You will notice that you've got file format, and my file format is on XAVCS 4K, which means I am shooting in 4K now. But regardless of what settings you have for your movies, when you turn your mode dial to HFR, regardless what settings you have for your file format over here, it will override that and shoot your movies in XAVCS HD. So all your high frame rate videos will be in HD, just so you know that. So now let's go on to the HFR settings. You go down to column 2, HFR settings. I'll click that in. Now let's start with the record setting. Record setting, alright. Let's go for the best quality, which is at 50 frames per second at 50 megabits. So let's do that. Next, we'll go on to our frame rates. Now, frame rates is really dependent on what you're shooting. For me, if I'm shooting people running, jumping, well, doing acrobatics like parkour and so on, 250 frames per second is really good enough to slow down human movement. But if you're recording races like, well, motorsports, you might want to go on to 500 frames per second. The downside of this, the disadvantage of going for higher frame rates is the quality tends to suffer a little bit. So at 250 frames, you've got the best quality, and as you go on to 500 frames per second, you do get all right quality, but I wouldn't advise going up to 1000 frames per second. And then you have your priority setting. So you can only shoot high frame rates within a certain time window. So if you want more shoot time, click on the second one, but you have less quality. If quality is important to you, you'll have a smaller window to shoot your high frame rate. I of course prefer quality, so I will leave it at that. Okay, next we have recording timing. So this is important because you need to know when high frame rates are being triggered. So I would prefer the end trigger as opposed to the start trigger. And remember, you have a very short time window to capture the action. I prefer actually the end trigger because if I have only a 2-second window to capture my action, I would rather have the action happen and then press the record button so that whatever happened 2 seconds ago will already be captured. So when the action is unpredictable, you're not sure when it's going to happen, the camera will always be recording. As soon as you press your record button, the previous action that has already gone past will be recorded into the camera. So hope you get that concept. I prefer the end trigger, so I'm going to select that. We want to tell the camera when you're using HFR settings. Do you want it to be shooting at shutter priority, aperture priority, or just go for the full manual? So to do that, let's scroll down to the next few columns. Okay, on the 7th column we see high frame rate, and I have set that to shutter priority. So I will scroll down there. Now when I click in, you have a choice during your HFR what kind of commands would the camera be doing, as in will it be controlling everything else but you control the shutter, which means you will go for shutter priority, or would you want it to be in full manual? So you do the aperture, you do the shutter, ISO, everything. You got to do it yourself. You got to manage it all on your own. However, if you go for program, that's as automatic as you can get. Over here you can see that the camera will control your aperture and the shutter speed, and you can control other things like your ISO. I would choose shutter priority because I want the camera to control all the other settings while I select the best shutter possible. During a high frame rate shoot, you want to eliminate all motion blur so you don't get that blurriness when a subject moves really fast. So I would prefer shutter priority because I want to increase my shutter as high as possible to reduce motion blur. So you are ready to go with the settings over here. You can go ahead and start shooting high frame rates. But let me show you how it works, because that's one small hurdle we need to overcome. Alright, video shooters, I've got a little domino effect being set up further down from the lens. So on the screen you see I've got like some little blocks which I'm going to topple over. But before we go on to topple the blocks, I want to show you what are the steps you have to take to trigger your HFR. Of course, the first step was to do all the settings. Now it's on to the shooting procedure. You got to make sure that if you want to zoom in or zoom out, you need to set all of this first. You got to make sure that your focus is good. You got to pre-focus that first, because As soon as you enter into high frame rate mode, that's when all of this, your exposure and your zoom together with your focus, you won't be able to control them. So over here we have our control wheel. So what I'll do is, there's in the center there's a button, you press it and then it says starts recording with movie button. As soon as it completes tumbling, I will press my movie button. So here we go. I will tumble this. Okay, and quickly depress the movie button and you can see that there's a very nice slow-mo effect over there. Now this is called an end trigger, which means I will trigger the domino effect by pushing it down and then quickly press the movie button, and then you see that you've got the action. You record after the action has happened, because remember, you have a very short time window, about 2 seconds or 4 seconds of high frame rate. So when you're done with your HFR, depress the center button of the control wheel again, and when you see shooting standby, you know that you can adjust your camera settings. So again, when you are in high frame rate mode, it shows you shooting setting. Okay, to come out of that, you press it again, it says standby, shooting standby. Okay, video shooters, I've again prepared my dominoes, my blocks over there for us to compare between end trigger and start trigger and see which one suits you better. So what you saw just now was end trigger. So let's go to select start trigger. Keep in mind that it's now doing the start trigger, so which means before the action happens, you already have to be pressing your record button. Okay, so now it's shooting standby, so I will enter into shooting setting and now it's ready. So when is the action going to happen? That's the problem. You don't know when the action will happen, right? So you got to be on standby, but remember you only have a 2-second window. So let's see how this works. I'm going to quickly press this movie button here and run over there to tumble the thing. So I'll press this and then I will tumble it. You see? So you are actually, did it work? Maybe not. Look at that. Let's do that again. I will set up the blocks and we'll do that again with start trigger. Okay, video shooters, now we have the blocks on standby. We're still at start trigger, so I will try and get it right this time. You see the amount of preparations I need to do because I don't know when the action is going to happen, right? Because we're using start trigger. So I will press this and quickly run over there. Did it work? Did it work? So we're not sure whether it worked or not. So in this case, it didn't work because I guess I was a little bit too fast. Go for an end trigger. Saves you a lot of, well, helps you not to miss the shots. Okay, I'll exit my menu. The blocks are all set up. Okay, now what we're going to do is the same. We'll set the camera onto setting. So it's now shooting setting, it's prepared. Alright, I can press this anytime. I can press my movie button anytime. So I'll let the action happen first. Alright, the camera, if you can understand the concept, the camera is actually buffering. It's actually recording everything into a buffer right now, which means it's continuously recording until you press this button, then whatever was before, it will keep, right? So right now, let the action happen, then you press the button. Okay, so I'll let the action happen. I will tumble this, and then I will press record. There you go. So that was a nice slow motion, high frame rate shot. So I hope you understand what is happening over here. Well, that's it for now, video shooters. Thanks for watching. Do check out our other tutorials and films. You can support us by subscribing to our YouTube channel and clicking the like button on our videos. Now that you know how to film slow motion videos in high frame rates, gear up, go out there and shoot it great!